Sean here with the Family Outdoors. In this episode of Bushcraft for Beginners, we are going to touch on your initial setup for your Bushcraft kit, covering the basics of what you will want to get started. In this video, we want to take a look at the basics of your first kit, covering all the essentials and perhaps a few amenities just for fun. The idea behind most items is they must be multifunctional and have at least a minimum of 3 different uses. After all, as Morse Kochanski quoted, the more you know, the less you carry. This is a traditional view on bushcraft itself. Although slowly being phased out by more modern ideals and catchy phrases such as 2 is 1 and 1 is none, coined by the Pathfinder school, it is important to remember you don't need a lot of gimmicks to have fun in the bush. Redundancies, however, can come in handy at times. This will be up to you how much you want to carry and how much weight load you can handle. You can see by the video I am sporting a plethora of redundant items. This video, however, will be focusing on the minimum items needed, keeping cost in mind. You don't need to spend a lot of money to get into bushcraft, head out into the woods and have some fun. This is something we will be taking into consideration as the video progresses. To start off, let's take a look at your pack. After all, you'll need something to carry your goodies in, right? As you can see from the photos, packs come in all different shapes and sizes, from small hip pouches to large 75 to 90 liter packs. When picking out a pack, it is important to choose the right size. This will be entirely up to you based on the amount of redundancies you choose to carry. All essential gear can fit into and on the smallest of packs, like the one on the bottom left of your screen. If you choose to carry more items, you will need larger packs like the one shown on the top right and left of your screen. Above all, you want to make sure your pack is comfortable and padded, has the capacity to carry what you want to take, and is durable. Larger packs have a variety of zippered compartments that can be very convenient in aiding the organization and ability of you being able to find what you're looking for quickly. Should you choose to carry more than the basics of what's recommended in this video, most large packs will also have additional tethers to strap on sleeping rolls, sleeping bags, etc. Along with the straps and additional pockets, you may also choose a pack that has MOLLE attachments that will also allow you to add additional pouches and items to your pack, further increasing its capacity and organizational abilities. Smaller packs, although not having the capacity, can carry the basics, are a lot lighter, and can allow you to go farther. Though this may cause you to sacrifice some comfort or luxury items and have to scale down the size of your basic gear, this pack contains all essential gear that you need, shown in the video. Sticking with the 3 or more uses theme, you could also use your tarp to make a Yukon pack or cowboy roll. That will bring us to our second piece of kit to look at, cover. The cover that I chose here for this little pack, you can see it on the very far left of your screen in a tiny little roll just behind the blade of grass sticking up on the pack, is a poncho tent tarp. It's multifunctional. It can be worn as a poncho. It can be set up in different tarp configurations. It can be set up as a lean-to, and again, that's what we're looking for, to stick with our 3 or more uses theme. It's a very versatile piece of kit. You can see by the video here, although smaller, these poncho tarps work extremely well for cover. They can block out the sun, rain, snow. They set up quite easily. They are extremely small in size, and best of all, they are very cost efficient, making this a great choice. As you can see in this video here, there are all forms of different kinds of cover. This particular one in this video is just a cheap tarp that can be found at any local hardware store. These only run a few dollars and are a perfect choice for a beginning bushcrafter. You won't mind at all getting the odd spark hole in there when it only cost you a few dollars to purchase it in the first place. These, if taken care of, will easily last you a season and are a great choice for your first time piece of cover as a beginning bushcrafter. You can see by the pictures that we choose to use these tarps in a lot of our camps. They are very functional and they're just an excellent way, good bang for the buck, to keep yourself covered and dry. When it comes to cover, there are so many different types, sizes, and shapes that you can use. The options are almost limitless. This tarp here is a giant 13x9 Aqua Quest safari tarp. Although it runs a lot more money, it is a great tarp in its own right. However, when you talk about getting this kind of cover, this is where you start to get a little bit more worried about things like spark holes and stuff like that, as gear maintenance becomes a lot bigger of an issue. You don't want to be spending $80 on a tarp and then getting a bunch of spark holes in it and it effectively leaking. So whatever choice of cover that you choose to use, you have to keep in mind your budget and the type of maintenance that you think that you can perform on that item. These are all great items. They're all excellent pieces of cover. They're all different in their own rights, but they all work the same. It all depends on you and how big of a dry area that you want to have, what kind of configurations you may want to set up. Maybe you don't want to go with a tarp. Maybe you would rather go with something like a Polish lavu that you'll see here. This is a Polish lavu. You may opt to go with a tent rather than using a tarp for your choice of cover. This is a canvas tent, which can be equipped with a little wood-burning stove, which is excellent for hot tenting in the wintertime. However, due to the fact that it is canvas, it is quite a bit heavier, and this particular style of tent may be a little bit too small for taller people. As you can see in the top right hand of your screen, I opted to add an extra foot of canvas around the bottom so that it allowed my longer torso to fit in there without my feet and head actually touching the canvas. They work excellent for a hot tent and are definitely a viable choice when it comes to your choice of cover for your bushcraft adventures. Having an open bottom, it makes it a lot easier to install a wood-burning stove inside of your lavu. Adding the additional 1 foot of canvas around the bottom greatly increases the size inside the tent itself. Another incredibly popular mod done to the Polish lavu is adding a zipper rather than using the buttons to close the tent up. It is a heavy unit, but for bushcraft you want durable gear, and this will definitely give you durable gear. You may not like an open bottom, or maybe you'll like that more. Again, that's personal preference, and that's completely up to you what you choose to go with. I would choose to go with canvas rather than synthetic materials that most common tents and bivvies are made out of, just because of the ability and durability to withstand sparks and stuff like that. It makes it a far more viable option in terms of a tent. Now that we've chose what sort of cover we want, let's move along to cutting tools. There are a variety of different sizes of these. More specifically, we want to talk about knives. Knives come in a multitude of different shapes, sizes, blade lengths, and weights. You can see here in the video on the far right of your screen, this is a kukri. It's a large blade primarily developed for chopping, though you can do some fine work with it like making wood shavings and feather sticks. Although this is a lot more awkward with a big blade than it is with a small blade. However, when it comes to functions like chopping off limbs or batoning, Bigger blades are definitely a lot more functional at doing that. Batoning is something that is greatly disputed throughout the bushcraft community, although myself personally, I don't mind batoning at all. As you can see by the video, batoning is a very effective way to split your firewood, as long as you have the proper size knife to do so. The kukri that I am using has got a full 1/4 inch tang. It is a very thick blade, and I have no worries at all about the blade being damaged or wrecked while batoning wood. Now, there are other implements that you can use to baton wood, but again, going back to the 3 uses function when we talk about bushcraft, batoning is an integral part of getting 3 uses out of your knife. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this with all knives. If you want to do stuff like batoning, you'll want to ensure that your choice of knife is a full tang knife and has a thick tang on it to allow for a little bit more punishment. It doesn't necessarily have to be a kukri, but it has to be a robust knife with a thick tang and that is full tang, otherwise you run the risk of breaking it off at the handle. One of my favorite brands that I choose to use is Charades. They're cheap, they take a punishment, they have a thick full tang, and they're generally a great all-around knife that suits the purposes I'm looking for. I generally go for a longer blade on mine, as I do like to baton with my knives. And I do find that I am able to work the smaller tasks like feather sticks and stuff with my blades. Regardless of what knife you choose to use, you'll want to make sure that your knife can complete a variety of tasks. You want to have a sharp 90-degree spine on your knife so that you're able to strike a ferro rod with it and get a fire going. It can be pointed out there are different ways to get a fire going without using a ferro rod, but this is definitely the most common amongst the bushcraft community. You can see this is being done in the top left. Other tasks you may want your knife to be able to complete is batoning, like you can see on the top right of your screen. This is a fairly common task amongst bushcraft that we've already talked about. Another very popular use for a knife amongst bushcraft is feather sticks. You can see this in the center bottom of your screen. Another option that you have for using your knife that I choose to use quite often is to use it as somewhat of a chisel when I make my bushcraft chairs and tables and different various products like that. You can see this being done in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Another thing that you'd like your knife to do is to be able to process tinder for you. This can be achieved through the sharp 90-degree spine as seen in the center top of your screen, or it can be achieved with the blade itself if you're processing something soft like birch bark. All in all though, the knife that you pick is probably going to be the biggest tool that is completely up to user choice and preference. Whatever it is you choose to use, just know that there are other methods to achieve different things. As you can see in the bottom left hand corner, I am splitting a tree using wedges. This is another option that you can do if you choose not to baton with your knife. At any rate, the knife you pick is going to be one of your most crucial products that you can choose when you're talking about your basic bushcraft kit. So take your time, enjoy what you pick, and just understand you don't need to spend a lot of money to get a functional product. Moving along through cutting tools now, let's have a little chat about axes. An axe is very popular amongst bushcrafters and a chosen tool more often than not in people's common kits. Axes are very functional and can make quick work of firewood, even if you have your husky trying to jump on you every 5 seconds while you're doing it. It's important when you use a tool like an axe to use it safely, as it is one of the more dangerous tools involved with bushcraft. This is another one of the reasons why I choose to baton more often than not. But still, an axe is a very functional tool. They work very well for craft projects as well as processing your firewood. There's a multitude of different ways to do it, as you can see from the videos on your screen right now. You don't have to spend very much money to get a good quality axe. The one you've seen in the previous videos was only $49 on Amazon as a cold steel trail boss. The axe pictured here I picked up at a garage sale for $10. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on an implement such as an axe when you could focus a lot more on the safety of it and make sure you're being safe when using this product. Thinking outside the box a little bit, there are a multitude of different bushcraft tools you can use. One of them that was extremely popularized by Fowler on Season 3 of Alone is a cold steel Special Forces survival shovel. This is an implement that I choose to use often as I love the multifunctionality of it. Aside from being a great shovel, it also chops very well. With a little bit of time, you can get the edge of the shovel to be just a razor sharp edge, and it does very well at making wood shavings as well as feather sticks. I love the multifunctionality of different tools that I can use for a multitude of different processing techniques around camp. This makes the cold steel survival shovel a great choice for me. You may not see it on anybody else's list for top cutting tool picks, but it is definitely on mine. Although the cold steel shovel isn't a necessary item, and it is definitely not one of your basic kit needs, I just thought I would throw it in for you to take a look at anyways. The last tool for our basic needs of cutting tools would be a saw. Whether you decide to go with a folding saw pictured bottom left and top right, or a bow saw pictured top left, center, and bottom right, or a larger folding saw like the Silky Katana Boy 650, these are all great saws for different purposes. Now these purposes are going to probably depend on what type of saw you want to bring. If you choose to primarily bring a saw for processing wood, you'll want to go for something like a bow saw. I would strongly recommend the Boreal 21 or the Fitzer's bow saw, as both are incredible saws that pack down or fold down small to go inside your pack. Other great options for jobs like shelter building or craft products are the folding saws. Now, although this is one of the few items that are of the high end on my list, I would recommend Silky for this, as they are far superior in their cutting ability in folding saws. You can get all sorts from the small pocket boy to the big boy, all the way up to the large Silky Katana Boy. I would not recommend getting the Katana Boy unless your primary focus for that cutting tool is making large fire lays like a log lay fire or a Siberian log lay fire. Now that is pretty well the only use for them types of saws. For the rest, you'll want to go for a nice sleek folding saw like the big boy, or for firewood, a board. When you're starting out for your bushcraft basics, I would recommend getting a folding saw. This will allow you to complete every project, building camps, as well as processing firewood. Although it may not be as efficient at the firewood part, it'll be a lot easier to use for all the rest of the processes that you intend to use your saw for. Moving along now to containers, it is extremely important that the containers that you choose nest together. As you can see in the pictures, I have two different styles of setups. One is just a strictly drinking setup, where I will have a cup and a water bottle that nest together. This saves room in your pack and will allow you to save space to bring other items with you. The other items that you choose to use, such as the billy can, should also have nesting capabilities with other kit that you take with you in your pack. It is very important to take your time when picking out these items so that you can find other items that complement each other and fit together. Now, it is not necessary to have multiple setups of containers. However, whatever container that you do decide to bring on whatever particular trip, whether it be a bottle and a cup or a billy can, you should be able to nest them with other pieces of equipment and gear to save space. A billy can is a container that I would suggest for your basic pack. It is bigger to handle larger batches of water purification. It's a lot easier to hang over the fire, and it is more functional and easier to nest with other equipment. Whether you decide to go with a zebra billy can like the one on the right, or a generic one like the one on the left, it's completely up to you. The one on the left only runs about $20 on Amazon, and a zebra billy can, although more functional if you have a Bushbox XL, is a lot more expensive, and it'll run somewhere around $70. The choice is completely up to you. My suggestion would be to go cheaper and to get the billy can on the left off. Moving along again, we'll go to a very short subject. You're going to need some sort of cordage for your bushcraft adventures. I would suggest 550 paracord. I don't have much on video on cordage itself. There are a bunch of natural cordages you can find in the environment, but I would also always suggest that you take cordage with you. Paracord is a good choice, or if you want to go cheaper, you can get some nylon cordage. Regardless of what cordage you choose, it is important to have some, as you'll need it to string up your tarps, tie different projects together, make tripods, and all sorts of different various bushcraft camp chores. You are also going to need some form of combustion. For this, I would suggest a ferro rod. Ferrocium rods can be used whether they're wet or dry or absolutely soaking wet. It doesn't matter what temperature, they will always work. So this, for me, is your go-to choice for a combustion implement when you talk about bushcraft. It never hurts to have redundancies when you're talking about fire, so I would also suggest bringing stormproof matches or a lighter. However, I'd like to do this particular subject in a completely different video and show you how to set up your own fire kit. But it is very important when you talk about the basics to have combustion covered. For this, I definitely suggest having a ferro rod, as most bushcrafters choose this as their implement of choice because of its reliability and dependability. It is a top-notch product. There is one more luxury item that I would like to mention to you guys that I find paramount when I head out into the bush. That is not necessary for your basic kit. However, I think you will find your time in the woods to be a lot more enjoyable if you bring it. If you notice on the left of the screen, above my bed, there's a bug net. To me, this is going to greatly increase the amount you enjoy the outdoors if you can get a good night's sleep without the bugs chewing you to death. Here in the boreal forest, we have a lot of mosquitoes, and this I rank as part of my basic kit here. It is very important to get a good night's sleep, and the bug net will allow you to do that. You can also find easily 3 different uses for that particular piece of kit. There you have it, guys. There's your basic kit covering cordage, cover, containers, cutting tools, and combustion, as well as a pack to carry them in, and an extra bonus of the bug net. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and this helps you get going on your basic pack. Get outside, enjoy the outdoors, and I'll see you guys next time. If you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.